everyone, welcome to ADRA Asia's podcast, While on Earth.
Happy, efficient and productive.
I'm very passionate about young people.
Currently leading the disaster risk management unit department.
COVID-19 is a long process.
Hello everyone, welcome to While on Earth, the podcast run by ADRA Asia. Today with us here in the studio is a friend and a mentor for me, Jayandra. Jayandra, who are you?
Well, I'm Jayandra Seneviratna. They call me Jay.
Okay.
Currently the country director for ADRA Sri Lanka.
How did you end up in ADRA Sri Lanka?
Well, that's not a complicated story, but a story where I ended up with ADRA initially in 2014 and 16 as an interim on a volunteer basis where there was a need. And then, as you know, early this year, during the end of last year, 2023, you asked me whether I would support ADRA. And I said yes, and I didn't know I was, going to be in this position. So here I am.
Maybe I should have been a little more specific when I used the word support.
Exactly.
But I think, growing up in the church, you always would have heard of ADRA,
Yes.
right? And now since you joined ADRA, does it match your view of what ADRA was?
Yes, I think to me ADRA was an organization that helped people. That was my thought.
Right.
And I think today if I look back and I look at what's happening, it's exactly that's the case, yes.
Could you speak a little bit about what you did before ADRA?
Well, immediately before ADRA, I was in the same development sector working for Swiss Contact in the vocational training sector. And even in the recent past, I was working on a consultant basis to Nepal, establishing the National Vocational Qualification System in Nepal.
Right.
That was but before that, you would never even guess because I was a sailor before that.
Right. And how many countries have you sailed to?
Oh, that's 48, something like that.
Countries.
Yes, 128 ports.
Wow. In a period of 10 years?
10 years.
10
around
years.
10 years, yes.
Right, okay.
10 years.
Jayandra, what are you passionate about?
Well, I am a victim of poor teaching.
Okay.
So during my school years, I was like the prodigal son.
Okay.
Hardly did any schooling, but not that I was dumb
Right.
or mentally retarded, but
Yes.
but it was the teaching. So I always began to teach myself after I left school, and I was teaching my colleagues in navigation. So I ended up, seeing things from the other side, how I would do things to make someone understand. I ended up in teaching methodology because I was lecturing at the Nautical College after my sailing, and then Swiss Contact came along with a teacher training project. And they said, would you join us for 1 year? Because I was almost heading back to sea. And I really enjoyed teaching for the 3 years that I did it. And I said, yes, I would join them. And teaching, basically transferring of knowledge, has been something I've really liked to do.
Teaching and training.
Teaching and training. It's basically, it's the methodology of transferring knowledge. You may have all the knowledge you need, but then it's another discipline to transfer that knowledge.
Right.
Because,
So can you speak a little bit to that, right? So we say, okay, training. And I'm not sure even what follow-up question to ask after that. Oh, it's a training. What is the process in transferring that knowledge?
training is, it's not, the talking teacher is the greatest obstacle to learning, they say.
Okay.
So if the talking teacher is the obstacle, then where is the learning? The learning happens on the other side. So the methodology is to develop ways and means of getting the learner understand. From the learner's point of view, you develop things where the learner is able to experience it, do it, and then learn. So it's not teaching or training isn't one way from the teacher to the learner.
Right.
It's actually what the teacher does to make the learner understand.
Right.
So that is what teaching is. So it's sad that in countries like Sri Lanka, it's not really practiced very much. So where when you compare certain other countries where teaching, learning is the focus.
So what are some of the methodologies that you follow?
Well, the methodologies are always trainee-centered.
Trainee-centered, okay.
Not trainer-centered.
Right.
We are always in the habit of developing syllabus according to the syllabus, certain sections where the trainer does this and does that, 1,
Right.
2, 3. But it's not that. It's how what the trainee does to learn.
Right.
So what activities? Basically, it has to be activities and visuals. You and I know that visuals are one of the greatest stimulants that will stay in your mind. So the visuals you do and the activities you do. There is this famous Chinese saying that I hear, I forget, I see, I remember, and I do and I understand. So that is basically the principle that is followed.
Right. So let's say you are assigned to conduct a training
Yep.
on a certain subject,
Yes.
doesn't matter what, right? How do you assess the capacity of the trainee or the group of trainees in terms of their learning and where they are?
Right.
Specifically, if you don't know the people, right? So if you know the audience, then you will be able to have a fair assessment before you go. But you arrive to conduct the training, to deliver the training, and so how do you actually now assess where they are?
Number one is you need to know your audience.
Okay.
I wouldn't go into a training if I do not know who they are, because
Okay.
my methodology has to be developed to suit that particular audience. So
Right.
I need to know who they are, and then I would have a very clear objectives with observable action verbs. So then I develop the assessment or the evaluation based on that objective and nothing else.
Right.
So therefore it's very easy if a trainee comes and I focus on the objective, I have action verbs, and then I basically assess on that. So it's impossible to go wrong,
Right.
and if it's impossible not to learn.
How do you get to know the audience before that? Do you ever have an opportunity to do that, or do you build that into the need to, like, in the training process?
Yes, it has to be in the need of the training process. Training needs assessment is a must.
Right.
If not, you will not. How do you know where you're going if you do not know where you need to go and what conveyor you need to use? You need to know whom you need to carry, whom you need to take the message to. That's a must.
So, for the sake of the programs people listening, right?
Yeah.
So, let's go through an example, if you don't mind.
Yes.
We are going to conduct a training on, let's say, hand washing. Right? So, there was a lot of trainings on hand washing
Yes.
during COVID.
Right.
That's the need. So now we have to deliver it to a community. Can you talk us through the ideal process, maybe, of delivering that training?
Okay. First of all, we are talking about a community where you're talking about hand washing.
Yeah.
So then there must be a clear understanding of who they are. The language is a must.
Right.
And some of them we do not know to what extent the language itself would help. So do we need visuals? Do we need examples? Do we need the real stuff to show them? So in that particular instance, it's a unique case where it's very it's based on who the audience is exactly, because you cannot sometimes even draw the picture and have a procedure guide, how you wash. You need to practically show it. You need the sink, you need the tap, you need the soap, you need whatever you need. You have to show that practically.
And you need to know where they are, how hygienic they are, or
Exactly.
their hygiene practices, I guess, right? So you also mentioned it, you link it to action verbs.
Yes.
So what would be some of the action verbs?
Wash your hands. Simple as that.
3 times a day, or?
It depends how you want to do
Right.
it. You don't write the thing, you say, understand the importance of washing the hands.
Right.
How do you know you understand?
Right.
You cannot write an action verb, understand the importance. So to be measurable, you must say, wash your hands. So then you know, and if you observe that and you observe that they're doing it right, you know that they understand.
Right.
So you write the action verb.
You've been in the development sector now for 10-15 years, right?
Yes.
Have you seen examples of bad trainings?
Oh yes. Oh, yes.
What are the repercussions?
They take nothing basically with them, and what they do is forgotten very fast. So if you forget, then learning hasn't taken place. Learning means if you remember. If you listen to me now and you in a couple of hours or a couple of days, if you have forgotten, you haven't learned anything. Simple as that.
But in terms of the project, we have spent the money and we have ticked number of trainings done, 15 complete.
Exactly.
Do you have any examples of successes?
Yes, I do. I mean, one of the success stories is we took youth off the streets, a very young guy. Let me take one story. The guy's from Anuradhapura, very backward, silent, but we took him into the trainings. He was talented. We also looked at where he was passionate about. He was actually an artist. He went into doing stickers and stuff, He opened his own outlet. He bought a car. He established his own building in Kakirawa in Anuradhapura. And you would not believe, recently, about a month ago, I received a call from him. He's in the UK.
How many years later? This
is now 10 years.
10 years.
Since, but he's gone and he still calls. So this is just one example, where we took the aspirations, put it together with the demand, provided him with the skills training, and there he goes. That's it.
Right. Isn't there a factor that there could be an audience that is just not receptive for the training, no matter what you do?
No, that's the reason you need to meet the audience. You need to find what they really need, because there is no point if I give you something to eat which you don't even like. I must know what your appetite is, what you want to have, what you enjoy. So if I provide you, I don't think you will not eat. You will. Every one of us has something we like doing. It's not possible that we do not have something that we don't like. And if we are able to channel whatever interventions in that direction, you're going to pick it up and you're going to run from there.
How do you adapt your training modality to different audiences? Say, for example, a mother's group versus, let's go back to the hand washing.
Yes.
A mother's group versus teens,
okay,
who come to the training with mobile phones.
Right. You need to have something innovative. You need to be creative to get their attention, right?
You mean the younger group?
The younger group.
Right.
The mothers would have different interests.
Right.
The young would have different interests. If they enjoy the training, if they enjoy doing, they will not realize that they are going through a training actually. They will be doing things, and then after the thing is over, hey, I don't know what to do. But they didn't realize that it was a training. You can do things. So that's the reason you need to know your audience. Mothers, fathers, youth, the young. You need to be innovative to develop something that the training becomes something enjoyable, and you don't know. So that's the reason I say you need to know your target group.
What are your thoughts on online trainings?
Good. It's possible. I have done online trainings as well. Once again, it's very much based on what they do practically. It's an assignment basis. You must go, because once again, online it's just one way. Of course, you can have two-way talking questions, but still I generally base it on assignments, right? An assignment, and I will meet them again, get them to do something and meet them again. So it's very much on assignment basis. During COVID, we had that opportunity to do that in training people on process management, and we had assignment basis with the Nepali crowd there, and it was very successful.
Right. So, just for the information of our audience, you are mainly focused in your career. You have always been focused more on vocational training or different types of training?
It's mainly in vocational training. As you know, the pedagogical training of schooling, that you cannot intervene. That's basically structured already. That has to have a major intervention to change that. But vocational training has been going all over the place, right? everyone who has some kind of a class and gives you a certificate and calls it vocational training. But fortunately, an ADB project in Sri Lanka 2006 brought in the National Vocational Qualification System, where we have NVQ, focusing on vocation, because as you know, it's only about 20% or less who go into the academic process. All the rest has to enter the vocational training system, right? So there has to be some kind of a system that takes them in. Thankfully, Sri Lanka is now heading in a very good direction, and that's the experience that I have shared with Nepal as well, as I have been working with them implementing the National Vocational Qualification System.
Right. So let's spend like a minute or two on vocational training. You learn welding.
Okay.
What is your role? Because you are not a welder, I understand.
No.
So where do you come into the system?
Okay. You mean to say,
so for example, in vocational training,
Yeah.
you are going to learn a specific skill.
Exactly, yes.
You are a trainer who do not have that specific skill.
Mm-hmm.
Do you help structure the modules nevertheless?
Right. I develop the training process of how you would deliver that training. Right?
Regardless of the skill.
All skill is there,
Right.
but you need an expert on the skill,
Right.
And then I go through with him in the methodology of, okay, how would you teach?
Right.
Then I look at the methodology, the structure, the visuals used, how practical it is, what assignments he would give, and then how he would assess. So those stages are there, and the objective has to be written down with action verb, and those are tested. Welding is one of the most common and one of the most demanded skills, trades worldwide.
Right.
And we have a number of youth, not even youth, those who are matured also, who are doing the job but are not certified. So we have the RPL system, recognition of prior learning.
Right.
So that is there, and that is there right around, in the world, in the developed world as well. So it's a matter of going through the process in which the training is delivered.
Right. ADRA does a lot of trainings around the world, and how have you, like in the sense when after joining ADRA Sri Lanka recently, have you made any improvements to the way trainings are delivered?
Not yet.
Okay.
But there are many plans to do that. I have thoughts.
Yes.
Not yet. But I think there is a need in the area as
Down
well.
the process. Right. Last question. If you had a superpower, what would it be and what would you use it for?
Yeah, superpower to change things the way knowledge is transferred, because it's a matter of learning. We all need to learn, and the problem is sometimes how the learning is done. If I can change the way teachers teach, that would be fantastic. If I was taught the way I thought, I could learn, I would be in a different place. But then again, contrary to that, I also believe in a reason, and there are no coincidences. So I think I'm here for a reason.
For a reason. So do you think we have lost globally a lot of potential of people because of bad teaching practices?
Certainly.
Right.
That's an area that we need to focus. You and I know in Sri Lanka that's a need.
Yes.
That's a need.
Yes.
Why do we do not go where we want to go here in Sri Lanka, but we migrate and we are doing fine? How does that happen? It's just the system, the education. Why does Harvard on top teaching the same syllabus as Colombo University? Law will take. Harvard Law, you're considered so to be perfect if you come out in that, but it is almost the same syllabus in Colombo. Or let's take another university in the US or in the UK. But how is Harvard? It's simply the methodology. Syllabus is the same, content is the same, curriculum is the same. It's the methodology.
Delivery. Jayandra, thank you very much for making time to be on the show, and I hope you will make time in the future to be with us again.
Thank you.
To all our viewers, don't forget to subscribe and join us on the next episode of While on Earth. Thank you and goodbye.